Brookvale gone wild. Let's look at what's happening in Brookvale at the moment in the Northern Beaches. There's 38-story applications being spoken about, and we're going to give you a bit of a breakdown very quickly and what it means to your values if you're in Brookvale as well. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Morning, Mr. Novak.
Hello, Mr. Wapshot, Brookvale extraordinaire. The last sale in Brookvale was achieved by this man here, breaking the Guinness Book of Records for sales.
Yeah, no, I've
Congratulations.
got a very deep love for Brookvale, and I think when all the teams saw this, I think the first place we saw it was on the Manly Observer, and Lise captured it. When that we brought that up, 38 stories, 5 towers, you couldn't believe it, could you?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know what? It's outside of planning controls. People have to understand that. But if you look at Meriton and DY, that was outside of planning controls, and that was approved. And sometimes it just comes to basic principles of just good planning or smart planning. The reason why they allowed Meriton DY was because they could have built a the same amount of units in a shoebox. So if you could imagine a shoebox with thousands of windows, they said we can give you 400 units that look like this, that are like 6 to 8 stories. Then it did look crap. Or we can give you the same amount of units in 2 towers, and we'll have a public domain. We'll have beautiful pedestrian circulation around the building. Visually, it would look nicer, and they allowed it. So this is a similar principle in Brookvale.
Yeah, and it ties in quite nicely with something that council and the community working with on that Brookvale structural plan. I know we've brought that up a couple of times, guys. And if you do want to know closer details on that, always use our number 0406 111 either Brookvale, Brookie. That will also bring up today's episode, and we'll bring up a little bit about that structural plan if you're wanting to find out what's going on a little bit more after today's episode. But yeah,
Yeah,
massive
if you want to
thing.
be a ninja, just that number 0460 triple
Sorry.
one triple one, and automatically that'll get all of the information on Brookvale is going to come to you. So it's a pretty way to get your hands on a bucket load of good information. Let's just move very quickly strategically through this planning. So Centre Group, which is Westfields, have had people want to know where it's going to be built. Can you bring up those plans just to show a little bit? Look at that. Now, that's not the 38 story. That's only the 8 to 15 story one that they were talking about. So it's going to be probably double and a half of what, almost triple to what you can see there.
Which is just huge, isn't it? When
It's a
you
whopper.
think of it, it is insane. But I mean, it definitely needs that love and attention, and like we've seen in DY with the Meriton. I mean, it's always a talk of supply is the killer of capital growth. However, I think it's sort of had a different approach with that the Meriton coming into DY. With all the facilities, shopping, infrastructure that's come along with the Meriton, I think it's also a new way to price your units. So generally, construction costs are quite high. Brand new, you're going to pay a little bit more. So I actually find that these new projects and developments, when they're done right, set a new benchmark in terms of value for these properties. So I
Well,
think it's going to be
Meriton
a great
Salford, I had new units on the back of what you're saying, Josh. I had new units across the road from Meriton, and Meriton was getting 10 to 15% more for the same brand new unit.
There you go. Exactly right. And I think Novak was we sold quite a lot in there, didn't we? In the Meriton, I think it was the most sales for Meriton in the year.
Well, yeah, well, Meriton Agent of the Year Australia wide 2 years in a row on the back of how many was sold in those buildings in DY. So it was really exciting times. We got really good at explaining to people that didn't want to buy in a big building the value propositions, and then literally once you got people to the development, then they were sold. But a lot of people look at this and go, "Eek, don't want it, don't like it." Then they actually go through the door and they're like, "Oh my god, this is exactly what we're after." So it's very counterintuitive. But this one in Brookvale, they've pegged to give you a reference of how big it is. Meriton's got 360 units in DY, and just this application here with Centre Group is 1,500 units. It's
Yep.
almost 4 times the size of Meriton DY. Not only a lot higher, but a lot wider. It's over 8 separate buildings, which is that red zone is where they want to be developing in. The blue zone is the shopping precinct. Why would council allow or even think of this? I think planning wise, for transport, for parking, for logistics, this site is used to handling an enormous amount of traffic movement and
Yep.
pedestrian movement. So it's actually, believe it or not, it's probably the most suitable site on the northern beaches to take density because of its current infrastructure to support
Yep.
more cars, more people.
Definitely. I think you're definitely right there. But yeah, it's a huge plan, and I think tying it in with the structural plan will work really well. And like you said, Mark, I think you're right in the way that you've got your major bus stops and things there at the moment. It is a real big junction
Yeah.
of infrastructure that would be able to handle it. So I think it's going to be exciting for Brookie, and I really do think it's going to have a Meriton like effect, like
Massively.
Meriton did in DY. And you've seen all the people that have bought in there. We've had a couple of people that would have bought through
Oh,
Novak off the plan and now reselling. Um,
happy.
crazy amount of returns. Even that
Yeah.
big penthouse at the top, Billy sold about 12 months ago as well. So yeah, no, there's been really happy purchases amongst that Meriton complex.
People,
Unquestionably.
you got to understand the default position is no. The default position is I don't want it. The default position is not for me. And the reality is completely bloody different. That's the incredible thing that everyone's like,
Yeah.
eek, no, I wouldn't live there. Not for me. No thanks. But the actual, when this thing gets done, people lose their mind. They love it. Now, can I just also talk about for the rest of what it also means for the rest of Brookvale? There's another heat map that you had there with 4 different colours, Josh. Why this is important to talk about is Brookvale is an industrial mecca. It's industries running in some parts 24 hours a day. It's dirty industry, and that's got to be done somewhere. It can't be done in residential streets. It gets done in these industrial zones. So they've left intact these industrial zones. So people are going, is this all of Brookvale? Is it part of Brookvale? Let us tell you. The purple is remaining. That's industrial. That's going from 2 stories. That's going to 4 stories. So it's going from approximately 11 meters to about 19 meters. That's the purple. The yellow is going to be an arts district that they're proposing just behind Roger Street there. And the reason they're proposing an arts district is they want to have like a blended commerce, business, fun, offices, sort of like an area that graduates into the industrial. It's also a noise buffer between the residential. The green is a mixed use zone, so that requires a street activation of retail shops. We all need our retail shops. Westfield can't have all the business, so that's that retail strip down between the Oval and the Mall. That's going to remain intact, but They're going to allow heights from 8 to 10 stories as you drive from Ringa Mall to the football oval, and they're going to graduate that down lower and lower and lower as you work away. So it's very bad planning to have. To not have a tent pole effect. If you think about a tent pole and you think about the roof on a tent pole, it graduates outwards with height. So you don't want to have 38 stories at the mall and then 1 story all around it. You want to graduate out the height. And that's what they've done with that green area. So they've pushed out 10 stories, 8 to 10 stories through that green area. And they haven't handled it up towards Aringa Mall and towards the Leagues Club. And I'll explain that to you in a second why. You got some
Wow.
comments there, Mr. Josh?
Yeah, we do. From a lovely Lisa, could this be a new town centre? It definitely strikes the appearances so with such major logistical infrastructure, with your B line stop there and your major bus stop, and like you said, Mark, there's going to be over 1,500 new apartments in the area. I think 5% goes to affordable housing. I think it's going to turn into a 5-level shopping. I believe that was right. Was it 5 levels of retail? Was in that what we were looking at this morning?
Yeah, they're probably 5 levels already in there.
Yeah.
Whether it's actually by levels or whether it's by height, 5 levels. That's in there as well. Look, you got to understand that there's a necessity for this. This what people are getting mixed up is this is being handled in 2 applications in 2 parts. There's a Brookvale structure plan, and they have excluded in the structure plan that's been approved, they've excluded the white zones. So if you look at the mall and if you look at the bus stop, it hasn't really been entertained in that structure plan. But they were always pegging 1,300 units, which included the green zones were taking up about 1,000 of those units, and the mall was taking up 300 to 500. Now the mall, Ringa Mall, has taken the lion's share of those 1,500 units, and they've said we just want to do 1,500 for ourselves. You guys can do whatever you want. The green areas there. So it's actually in 2 parts. The structure plan is handling the colours we're seeing here, and the state application that the mall's made against the state is independent of the structure plan.
Yeah, we've got another comment there from Lise. People will be asking about additional transport, no doubt. Well, I think there was already a request recently on the beaches for a couple of more double-decker buses. A lot of those B1s had been backed up. Yeah.
They got 40. They got 40 extra 40 allocated to them. I don't think they've been delivered yet, but they've been approved.
Yes, that will definitely help with the flow there. Look, 1,500 homes. It's obviously either 2 to 4 times that amount in terms of people now residing in the area. So definitely so. But it seems as though they've taken their time with this, the Brookvale Council in their approach, and it seems quite effective. Would you say, Mark?
Look, they're being really sure-footed, with it all. So, and it's exciting, to see what's going to happen. Just showing that on stage, so we've got that. Make no mistake, this is if DY is sitting at 10,000 units in a small shopping precinct. This is the other way around Brookvale, whereas it's sitting with the whole of Brookvale probably has 2,000 units. So if they're going to go from 2,000 to 3,500 with the mall, if that gets approved, and then with that the structure plan which is approved, that's another 1,500 units. So it's going from 2 to 6,000 units. Brookvale. What does that mean for unit holders in Brookvale? What's your opinion, Josh?
Yeah, like I said before, look, obviously with the depth of market, I think the strong buying in the northern beaches would soak up this stock. Like I said, I think it sets a new benchmark for units. New improved, brand new, generally off the plan with new fittings and fixtures, and how costs are. They're generally more expensive, even though they're slightly discounted. I think it will just set new benchmarks for a lot of the units in Brookvale. We don't see too many new buildings pop up. So like we've seen in the Meriton, I definitely just feel like it will be set a new benchmark for values on units in the Brookvale area. So I think it'll be positive. And like we've seen, big projects like this obviously take time. Pre-sales come out quite promptly. So I think the take up over the time while it's being built, it'll be similar to a Casa del Mar, guys. We thought, wow, 220, 40 odd units. Well, I think we're down to 11 one bedrooms. The project's still 18 months away, 12 to 18 months away. So I think the supply will be absorbed quite efficiently, and I think it will set new benchmarks for new stock, for stock in the area. So positive. What about you, Mark?
Are there any losers in this?
Losers? I guess probably, the only thing I can think of is, high traffic in the area. It's always probably residents that, high traffic in regards to, parking spot, the mall, getting through that Pittwater sometimes does jam up there. So maybe the influx of population does create a bit of a bottleneck there. But I'm sure council will be on top of that. But yeah, in terms of property prices, I see it as a positive. I don't really think too much could go wrong unless the buyer pool does shrink for the Brookvale area and old units competing against a new unit. I mean, that's probably the only scenario where it's negative that I see. What do you see?
Speaking, because I've been to a lot of these community meetings, I think that the losers I see in this are from Old Pittwater Road, where the Brookvale Oval is, up to the intersection of Ringa Road and Pittwater Road and Harbord Road. There is zero allowances for height, FSR, residential apartments in that zone. So they've awarded all of that residential height and they've weighted it towards the B-line bus in the mall. So that's where it's really high, and then it graduates away from the B-line bus. So transport's a big towards that B-line bus is a big thing. In hindsight, when the express bus station was officially designated to the mall for the B-line bus, that was a big loss for the property owners close to the mall, because that's where the height's been awarded to now. So Brookvale used to have two major bus stops competing to Express. One was near the old Westpac Bank, and the other was at the mall. The mall won and got the B line, so that's now helped with the density. I did speak with the mayor at the time about the allowances of entertaining residential developments from the Brookie Oval up to the Ringa Road, Pittwater Road intersection. And it was a really interesting conversation. That intersection is the worst intersection in New South Wales.
Wow.
It's the second most congested intersection in New South Wales.
That's huge.
So no cigar for any development close to that, because in that part of Brookvale, because they can't amplify that to be a worse intersection. But they want state funding to have a carriageway a bit like near the hospital where they have the portals. So they'll have a portal going from north-south and a portal from east-west. So you won't stop at that intersection. Basically, you'll just be ramped through DY from Brookvale, or you'll be ramped up Ringa Road from DY up Ringa Road. Now that requires compulsory acquisition. It requires hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on that intersection. So until that's sorted, they don't want to see residential going into that area between that intersection and
Mm.
the Leagues Club. So I thought that was a big planning thing that we never really even think of.
Yeah, yeah, no, very good point to bring that up. Yeah, it's quite exciting. Quite exciting. Not every day you see something like this come into your backyard. So glad to unpack it this morning. And guys, just remember 0460 111 Brookvale or Brookie. We'll upload this video a bit about the plans going up there, and obviously the structural plan if you're wanting to find more about Brookie, or like always, give us a call.
It's all there. Give us a call. Thanks, legend. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks.